My husband is not my husband.
And what makes you say that?
Civilization is an illusion, a game of pretend.
Have you noticed anything?
I have.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2007 sci-fi thriller The Invasion. The film is directed by Oliver Hirschbiegel and it stars Nicole Kidman, Daniel Craig, Jeremy Northam, Jackson Bond, Jeffrey Wright and Veronica Cartwright. Now the film follows Nicole Kidman's character, Carol Bennell. She is a renowned psychiatrist in Washington, D.C. and she discovers an alien epidemic, I suppose, that is threatening to wipe out mankind. She has to try and keep herself awake, alive, safe, as well as her son, as it seems everybody around her is being consumed or overtaken by this new alien epidemic. Right, what are my thoughts on The Invasion? Well, this is a first time watch for me, guys. I don't really know why I haven't seen this film yet. I think probably at the time when it came out, I remember this didn't get good reviews. It didn't do well. And I'm a big fan of the whole story of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, really, which obviously this is what this is based on. My favourite version is the 1978 version with Donald Sutherland and Veronica Cartwright, who's in this, and Leonard Nimoy, as well as others. I think that is a superb sci-fi horror. And on some level, I was hoping for something like that film. Do we really get anything on that kind of level? On a very basic level, I would say yes. Very, very basic level. To compare this to previous versions of this story, especially the 1978 version, would be unfair. Because this film would not come out favourably compared to those. I understand when you're remaking something that you kind of want to put like a fresh stamp on things, I suppose. But the whole idea that this is like a disease, essentially, that can be easily overcome by the end of the film, and, you know, it gives you a jolly happy ending, I think was a travesty for this film. This is the kind of story where you don't need a happy ending. It doesn't. The story in the film doesn't require a happy outcome, a happy ending. One of the greatest endings of all time, as far as I'm concerned, is the 78 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, when Veronica Cartwright is wandering around the city. She finds Donald Sutherland and thinks she's found someone safe. And he does the whole mouth open thing and points and screeches at her. It's absolutely terrifying, and that scarred me as a child. And at that point, when the film finishes, you know that the world is absolutely screwed. Whereas at the end of this film, science wins over. They've found a cure to this disease, and everything's hunky-dory. No, I mean, it absolutely tanks the film. So tragically, it's unbelievable, and I can completely understand why the film didn't do well critically and commercially. Now, that's not to say it's all bad here, because I don't think it is. There are some effective moments here. Daniel Craig is woefully miscast, I have to say. I mean, he basically just started doing Bond, and he was obviously getting offered a lot of big roles in movies, and, you know, he's probably feeling like the belle of the ball and accepting them all. But he offered nothing to this film. He essentially is the love interest of Nicole Kidman, and he's only really there as well, as that love interest, and then for a shock later in the film that's not really a shock, if really, you kind of, you can see it coming a mile away. And Nicole Kidman, who I think is a fine actress, clearly. I think she's more than proven that over the years. I don't think she's very good here in this film. I don't think she's terrible, but there are scenes in this film where she is supposed to be acting emotionless. You know, so that she can blend in with the rest of the converted, or, you know, whatever you want to call them, these aliens who walk around emotionless. And it's a tactic we've seen before, you know, in other versions of this story. But I don't recall at any point when she was doing this where she appeared emotionless. I just didn't buy it. Which is odd, really, because the rest of her performance actually was quite emotionless. So, I mean, this film really did lack a spark and personality. It really needed something to really... if they were going to give us the ending that they gave us here, and I'm sorry if you haven't seen the film and spoiling it, but, I mean, come on, guys, it came out in 2007. But if they were going to give that optimistic ending that they gave, they needed to give us some absolute world-class scares and frights for the rest of the film. And they don't really. I mean, there's a couple of moments, but again, nothing like to what we've seen in previous versions of this story. It felt a very tamed, toned down version of this classic story. And when you consider, really, I suppose, it was PG-13. They were aiming for a wider audience, clearly. It was a terrible mistake, an error of judgment to do that. They should have gone for, you know, the R rating. They should have ramped up the violence and the scares and the tension within the film, and really delivered in a lot of areas. And it's almost like every time the film threatens to kind of get to a certain point of, you know, all those things I've just mentioned, you know, the violence and the tension, etc., the scares, it kind of reins itself back in, and you just end up feeling a little bit disappointed with what you've seen. So I think this is amongst probably the worst versions of this story that I've seen. And it's odd, really, because it's a poor version of this story wrapped up in like a Hollywood blockbuster, you know, because it's nicely polished, you know, great production values. You know, it's got a top cast in the sense of, you know, the names that are in here, but it just feels like you're watching this film all the way through it, and feels like someone's got the foot on the brake all the way through this film, and it never really fully truly delivers on its potential. So ultimately, I was disappointed with this. I don't think it's a terrible film or anything like that. I just think it's really quite tame. So that's my thoughts on The Invasion for my first time watch for this film. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen the film, and what's your favourite version of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers type story, and I will see you back here on the channel with plenty more content very, very soon.